Now, more of Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project, the only show directly addressing the problems and solutions for Illinois. Now, from AM 560, here's Dan Proft.
Dan and Pat back in this edition of Rising, and this story comes to us from Orland Park, and it is a great tale about how difficult it is to change the kleptocratic culture in this state. So I, through my PAC, backed a candidate in the spring elections, municipal elections in 15, Keith Pekow, who's the mayor of Orland Park now. Took out a 24-year incumbent, Dan McLaughlin, who hadn't been challenged in 12 years. But he doesn't have control of the board, and it's a manager form of government in Orland Park. And so there's all kinds of things to unwind because, of course, McLaughlin and his loyalists and his patronage hacks and the members of the village board that were lining up to follow McLaughlin after they quadrupled his salary so that he could triple his pension. A lot of long-serving trustees who were going to be a kick line right behind him to do the same damn thing. And Pekow, who's doing a great job, here's somebody who has actually kept the promise, I know because I've been watching, kept the promise to be the reformer in Orland Park that could be a model for other local units of government, other communities. And he's getting short shrifted by these endemic kleptocrats at every turn. Let me give you an example of this just recently. And to Keith's credit, he informs the public, hey, I don't care. Here's what's happening. Here's the truth. You make up your own minds. He sends out missives. He talks directly to the press. There's no fear here because he's not looking to, leverage this for a pension or a six-figure salary. The village manager is 10 months into a 3-year contract. The village board just voted 6-1 to give him a year extension on his contract.
Is he like Nick Saban?
I mean, Nick Saban doesn't get an extension 10 months into a 3-year deal. This village manager, he hasn't even had a performance review under this 3-year deal. 10 months in, they extended his contract by a year and increased his severance in the event that he is dismissed without cause from 6 months to 9 months. I mean, Aaron Rodgers just signed a 4-year, $134 million deal. I assume this is probably similar in Orland Park.
They have the same agent.
It must. But that was at the end of Aaron Rodgers' contract after he had performed. I've got a contract at AM 560, and it's not up for a while yet. And they're not banging down my door to extend it with, more than a year left on it because they expect performance. And then after you fulfill the terms of the contract, then we'll talk about a new contract. Not in Orland Park, not in government. It is remarkable. But this is what we talk about when we talk about how the culture of kleptocracy, the fix being in at every level of government. You can look at Tiny Dancer and you can look at Cook County government and you can look at what the state, look locally. Look locally.
Yeah, and you use the perfect word. It's culture, right? So Pekow can get in there and start doing his stuff, which he's done well for the last year plus since he's been in office. But the culture is so endemic that it's going to require, just like Tom Morrison said in our prior segment, he was the first legislator not to take a pension. Now there's 60. So Pekow is sort of the beachhead. He's out there saying, look, I'm going to put a stake in the ground and I'm going to call these people out. Now what he needs, and people should out there and everywhere else should help him, is he needs to start replacing the people on that board bit by bit. And when that happens, that's only when the culture changes. Otherwise, this is going to go on and on and on.
And that's the spring 19 election when half the board is up. By the way, the process, who made that an agenda item to increase to extend the contract and increase the severance pay?
The guy who got the contract.
The village manager.
It was, hey, can I put this on the agenda? Is it okay if I get this? Hey, look, there's a lot to go on. I'd like this to be first on the agenda tonight.
And, oh, by the way, just to put an exclamation point on this, one of the trustees for the Village of Orland Park who backed the guy Pekow ran against, the 24-year incumbent hack, Democrat hack, is a guy named Jim Dodge, who's the Republican candidate for treasurer on former Governor Bruce Rauner's slate of candidates who will lose in November.
Oh, and he's going to lose. Jim's going to lose huge.
Spectacularly.
It's going to be incredible.
Jim Dodge voted for this. He voted for the 1-year extension, the 33% increase in severance pay.
Wait, he's running for state treasurer, Dan.
Correct.
Treasurer.
And he, as a Republican. Keith Pekow is a conservative reformer.
You literally, let me tell you something. You can't make this up. If you went to Hollywood and said, look, we're going to run a script about Keith Pekow and Jim Dodge and this contract, and he's running, they'd say, no, that's too far afield. Throw some aliens or a shark in there.
I mean, so when, but this goes back to, I know the example about how leadership builds consensus, and that's what Pekow's doing, but also the responsibility of the residents in a particular community with respect to holding people at the village board and the school board and the township board and the county board accountable for what they're doing.
Dan, unless there's like a gas station going up next to their house, nobody's going to those meetings. That's just the reality. No one is engaged at that level unless it's a particular issue that affects their direct daily lives. That's the problem. That's the lack of civic engagement everywhere.